In this video, I'll demonstrate using the UpdateProgress control that ships as part of the Microsoft ASP.NET 2.0 extensions for Ajax. One of the standard programming models for Ajax-style development is to write code in which the JavaScript code that's running inside your browser can independently carry on network conversations with the service methods that are implemented back on your server. Naturally, this results in some amount of network latency, some pause between the time that the client code makes the request for service and the data is returned from your server back down to the JavaScript code in your client. Now, sometimes it doesn't matter if the user is not aware that this is taking place because it happens asynchronously. But sometimes the user does need to know that there's an interim of latency while the client is communicating with the server, particularly when that network conversation is taking place, predicated on some user interaction that's explicitly taken by the user. So to get started, we'll fire up Visual Web Developer, which is the free version of Visual Studio for web development, and we'll create a new Ajax-enabled website. Let's open up the default.aspx page, and the first thing I'm going to do here is hop out to my desktop and grab a cascading style sheet that I can use to define the look and feel of my application, as well as an animated GIF file that I'm going to use as part of the content that gets defined inside my update panels template. Before I can use the style sheet, of course, I need to go ahead here into the header section of my ASPX page and drag the CSS file out of the Solution Explorer so that I get a reference to that CSS file, and now I can program against the classes that are defined therein. So I'm just going to center justify this content, and the first thing I'm going to do is add an update panel. So I'm going to hop down into the Ajax Extensions tool tab in my toolbox here in Visual Web Developer, and I'm going to grab an update panel. And then inside the update panel, I'm going to place a standard ASP.NET label control, and then a button that we can click on that will cause some server-side postback to take place. And notice that we're very nicely picking up the styles that are defined in the style sheet. I'm what you would probably refer to as aesthetically challenged, so I have very little artistic capability, at least in terms of this sort of graphics design. And as a result, I have downloaded this CSS file from Open Source Web Designs, which is a site out there on the web where folks contribute their web designs into the public domain. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to double-click on the button so that I get a server-side event. I'm not actually going to implement any logic in the server-side event for the button control. Actually, what I'm going to do instead is, in the page load event for my page, I'm going to use the label control as a timestamp. So, and for you C# programmers, Visual Basic's not case sensitive, but let's clean up that casing there. So what I want to do here is say date time now. So that'll just take the current date and time and put its text value into that label button. But the other thing I want to do here is I want to introduce some artificial network latency. So because my client and my server are running on the same box, the response when I make an explicit request will be almost instantaneous. But in our case, we want to pretend that the client and the web server are on different machines, that the web server is out there in internet land someplace, and will take a couple of seconds to respond. So I'll do that by saying system.threading.thread.sleep, and let's just make that about a 3-second delay and clean up my typographic error here. So now if we just run this app just as it stands, notice our web page will come up. And when I click on the button, notice 1, 2, 3. Click on the button again. 1, 2, 3. So we've taken that 3-second, 4-second latency in there, but the user doesn't have any idea what they're waiting for or what's going on. So they click on the button, they expect an instant result, but it takes several seconds for the answer to come back from the server. So let's use the UpdateProgress control to provide that feedback to the user while that network conversation is taking place. So let's go ahead and grab an UpdateProgress control from the Ajax Extensions tool tab. And I'm going to go ahead and grab that animated GIF file, and then I'm also going to so under the covers here, what that's done is we've dragged this onto the page. When we added content, it generated a progress template. And here I've just got whatever markup content that I want to use. So in our case, I'm using some static text, and I'm also using an animated GIF file to give it that sort of action-based user interface look. Now if we go ahead and fire up our user interface. Right, so now when I click on the button, notice that we get that animated GIF with the updating, and that lasts for as long as that network conversation is waiting for a response. Right? And that's it. It's that easy to use the update progress control to give your users some real-time feedback, letting them know that the client application is waiting for a response from the server requesting some new data that your code has requested.